What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And this one, it's the game week preview. So there's some pretty big topics to go through this week. Trent Alexander-Arnold injury. Bamford is out. Who do we need to replace him with? Chelsea defenders, of course, again. Arsenal players, Wolves players, Gabriel Jesus. There's a lot to go through. So if you do enjoy it, give it a like. Hit that subscribe button. And let's just quickly talk about Fantasy Football Scout. There's still over 30 game weeks to go this season. So there's plenty of time to take advantage of becoming a Fantasy Football Scout member. If you want to sign up, there is a link in the description below. You can either sign up monthly, see how you go for a month or two, and then decide whether you want to keep on using it, or you can sign up for a full year in one go, and obviously that will take you through into part of next season as well. There's loads of great tools on it. As always, I can't go through all of them. One of the ones that I think would be really handy this week is the Rate My Team tool. So if I put my ID in here, which is number 2, it will show me my team, and obviously the points projections for a lot of players, like Luke Shaw, if he's out, are going to be 0. Simicast obviously is not going to play. So if I want to have a think about replacements, so for example, if I want to take out Trent Alexander-Arnold this week, I can go down and put a Chelsea defender in instead. And obviously if I put Alonso in, I can then see how many points he's projected to score over the next few weeks. I can go back and then check out Spiliqueta. Or if I want to just see it all in one go, if I make this a bit smaller, you can go onto the player list. And again, you can just go to defenders and then you can go to team if you want to, if you just want to check Chelsea defenders, for example, and it will show you who's projected to score the most points and also who is the best value. Obviously, you have to give it a bit of context. So Reece James, for example, will probably still be out this week, but it might help you kind of narrow down who you want to go for. We're going to talk about Chelsea defenders in this video, but there's loads of other stuff in there as well. There's loads of team stats, all your expected stats, shots in the box, all that good stuff. You can make your own stats tables. There's a really handy fixture ticker as well, which you can expand to as many game weeks as you want. You can start it from whichever game week you want. So if you're thinking about wildcarding later on, you can go to like game week 13, see who's got the best fixtures and who you might be targeting and whether it's better to save the wildcard or not. Really is a brilliant website. The members area in particular is great. If you want to sign up and if you want to check it out, there's a link in the description below. I'd highly recommend it. Okay, so this is pretty handy news because last week we knew that Bamford was out, but we didn't quite know how long for. There was rumours that it might be for a month, but now he's been on the official Leeds podcast. You see Fantasy Football Scout tweeted out. He said, it's been about 10 days now since I did it, so since he hurt his ankle. In that 10 days, I've done very little. It's not ready to run on, so he's still not running on it. I imagine within the next 10 days, I'll be able to run. And I think there was a follow-up then that said after that, it should be about 7 days until he can play. So he's definitely missing game week 7 at this point. It actually looks like he might miss game week 8 as well. Now, that's not guaranteed, because obviously there's international breaks, so there's a 2-week period. But if it's right now is what, like the 30th of September, 10 days is going to be, 8th, 9th of October, so it's the middle of the week. Then he's going to start running. There's not a guarantee he's back for game week 8, but it is a possibility, right? So what do you do with him is tricky. Personally, I think I would sell him because he's definitely going to miss Watford at home, which is probably the best fixture he's got over the next 4 anyway. And then there is a chance he misses game week 8. If you wanted to get back on him, he's then got Wolves and Norwich in game week 9 and 10, but the fixtures aren't, they're okay after that. It's like Leicester and Spurs away, but they're not where he's in a position where you absolutely must own him. And I think with injuries like this, sometimes, depending on how your squad is set up, I'd rather kind of err on the side of caution that you just get rid of him and then you hope that he misses that additional game, which makes it all worth it. If you think he's only going to miss Watford, you could just hold on to him if your bench is decent. In terms of who to go for, obviously it's going to depend how much money you've got, but we're going to go from kind of 8 million down. So I think Antonio, obviously, if you don't already own him, is a brilliant option. I really would consider Jimenez. I know I tried to get people to do that last week. That's what I ended up doing as well. But I think the fixtures are just so good for Raul Jimenez over the next few weeks, like for Wolves in general, that if he keeps on ticking over like he did last week, then you can literally keep him all the way to game week 14 because the fixtures are just that good. It depends how much money you want to keep in that spot. If you want to take some money out, then Tony is probably the best long-term option, even if his short-term fixtures aren't fantastic. And so that's probably where I'd go. 1 week punt, I would go Jimenez or Chris Wood. Long term, but you want to take some money out, I'd probably go for Tony. And around the same price, I would go for Antonio or Jimenez. But in most circumstances, I think I would get rid of him this week. And if you're on a wild card, there's absolutely no reason to own him. I should have probably led with this news, right? Because Trent Alexander-Arnold possibly missing a game is pretty big. So Jurgen Klopp said, obviously, when you have something with your muscle, it's not likely for Sunday. No muscle injury heals that quickly. Now, we don't completely know how bad this injury is, but we do know he's a doubt for this weekend, right? And there's a couple of ways you can look at it. It's Man City at home, so you shouldn't have been expecting too many points anyway. I would have put money on Man City scoring in that game. Of course, Trent's good for attacking potential as well, but chances are he would have come out with a blank, and he might be back for Watford away. I think it's worth saying he's not even 100% ruled out for this week, although I do think he'll miss out, but that's just my opinion. And then he's definitely not completely ruled out for game week 8. So potentially he could be back for Watford away. Then it's Man United away. Then it's Brighton at home. I think you can look at the fixtures a couple of ways, right? You can say that the fixtures aren't great until game week 13 when they play Southampton, Everton, Wolves, Villa, Newcastle. Right? The list of good fixtures goes on. But also, I don't think it's any harm having him back for game week 10. Brighton at home is good. West Ham away. Arsenal at home. They're not that bad of a fixture run for a Liverpool defender like Trent Alexander-Arnold. So let's not try and kill ourselves that he's not still a really great option. And if he's back for game week 8 and I don't own him, I would be massively worried, right? I think in terms of what to do with him, it depends on your situation. If you've already wildcarded and you've got a good bench, I would be tempted to hold on to it. And again, it all depends. Like, can you easily get to Chelsea defenders? Can you get to a Man City defender next week? If not, is Trent your easiest way? And then you just risk not having him for a few weeks and just hope that he doesn't massively punish you for Man City, Man United and Watford fixtures in the next 3. If you've got a good bencher, you could keep him, hold him, and hope that he starts for Watford. If he's still not available for Watford, then it gets tricky because you'll probably be forced into keeping him again, and you've missed 2 games, and then you're about to run into Man United away. So it is a bit of a horrible situation. But if you've wildcarded and got a good bench, you could probably keep hold of him. If I was on a wildcard this week, I wouldn't include him, right? I might wildcard. I still haven't decided. Well, it's not that I haven't decided. I'm still waiting on more information, basically, which I think is a perfectly reasonable thing to do, by the way, even though no one agrees. But if I was wildcarding this week, I'd probably have 2 Chelsea defenders and at least 1, maybe 2 Man City players. And there's a couple of things you can do. You can either decide to yourself that you're just going to go without him for a few weeks and then later on down the line try and get 2 free transfers or take a -4 to bring him back in. Or you can just build a squad as though he's in your team, right? He's 7.6 million. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't go down to 7.5 million before he's back. And then maybe you have 2 Chelsea, 2 Man City, but you keep $1 million or 1.5 million in the bank. So as soon as he's fit, you can just get to him in 1 transfer. Obviously, you need to be realistic about which defender you're going to want to get rid of. Because if you go for, like, I don't know, Rudiger and Christensen, and then you've banked the money to do Rudiger to Trent, but actually when it comes down to it, you want to get rid of Christensen, then you're going to take another hit, right? So you need to be realistic about who you're going to be happy to sell later on. If I was on a wildcard, I definitely wouldn't own him. I just think it's too risky for Man City, unless we get news that he's going to be fit. And then I just hope that Watford away he doesn't play, and then I wouldn't feel too bad about making a decision. And even if he plays, by the way, Chelsea have got Brentford that week away, and Man City got Burnley at home. There's nothing to say that they couldn't outscore him anyway. Again, I'm not trying to pretend that Trent is not the best option out of all of these teams and players that I'm talking about, because he is the best defender in the game. But there is a chance on a 1-game week basis that they could outscore him. And then again, he runs into Man United away, so it's not even that good. So wildcard, definitely go with that, but maybe consider keeping some money back. For those of you that you haven't wildcarded and you don't know if you're going to wildcard soon, this is the situation that I'm in. I am probably going to sell him this week. Right, because if you haven't used your wild card, you've always got that in your back pocket to wild card and get him back in and obviously overhaul your squad as well. And so it feels like less risky getting rid of him. And I will almost certainly sell to a Chelsea defender. We're going to talk about them in just a minute. And then I will look to either get him back in with transfers if I can. If not, I'll just get him back on wildcard. And it's basically taking an educated risk that there's a chance he misses Man City, there's a chance he misses Watford, and if he does, I'm okay until like game week 10, maybe even game week 13 until I get him back. Obviously, there's always a risk of not having him, but I think an educated risk like that is probably okay to take. So 3 different scenarios. If you've wildcarded already and you don't really have a good way to get rid of him and get him back and you've got a bench, just hold on to him, I think. If you're on a wildcard, I would definitely go without, but I would definitely consider having the money in the bank to bring him back quickly. And if you haven't wildcarded already, and you're in a sticky position like me where you've got loads of defenders out or possibly going to be risks for this week, then I'm probably going to sell him with the knowledge that I can get him back on wildcard. But just to reiterate, he's not definitely out for the Man City game, although I think he will probably miss it, and therefore he's definitely not ruled out for the Watford game. He could make it, and if he does, it could be a double-digit haul for sure. Okay, let's talk about Chelsea defenders. I feel like we could talk about them every single week, and I still wouldn't have any kind of idea about how they're going to line up the next week or the next game week after that or the one after that. Now, I think a lot of people are making assumptions based on a few fixtures recently where maybe they haven't played that well. But let's not forget, in recent weeks, like they've had that tough fixture run. I said, like, for Lukaku, it would be hard. Liverpool, Spurs, Man City, they've also just played Juventus, right? None of these teams are Southampton or Brentford or Norwich. They've got an easy fixture run coming up, so don't be worried about what's happened recently. And obviously, they've still kept a bunch of clean sheets in the league anyway. Last night, right, it couldn't have gone any better for anyone that was kind of unsure about whether to go for Alonso or whether Chilwell would play. So Alonso played for 45 minutes last night. Then he got brought off. Now, all the narratives then started. Some people was saying that he hadn't played well. To be fair, there was a Chelsea journalist, which got nothing to do with FPL at all, that actually said maybe the Alonso experiment is over. There's a few Chelsea fans that said that he didn't play very well last night. I will say I didn't watch the game, so I don't know how kind of biased these people might be to Alonso, to FPL or anything like that. But a few people said that he hadn't played well. Some people said that he was on a yellow card, so maybe that's why he was brought off. And obviously Chelsea did concede just after Chilwell came on. I'm not saying it was Chilwell's fault. Again, I've not seen the game or anything like that. But Chilwell then played 45 minutes. So I'm going to be honest. When I knew I was going to talk about this on today's Game Week preview, I'd already decided that I wasn't going to go for Marcos Alonso. And last night has just kind of nailed that decision for me. It is worth saying, from everything we know, we should probably just assume that Alonso is still first choice. But I just don't want to take that minutes risk that if he doesn't start, he comes on, and that if he's not going to get enough minutes, that maybe Azpilicueta and Rudiger are just better options. And the thing is, Reece James is also not probably going to be out for as long as we thought. I think originally we were looking at maybe 4 to 6 weeks that some people were speculating, but now it sounds like he might be back after the international break. So suddenly someone like Christensen feels like a bit of a risk. And again, he started 5 out of 6 in the league. Maybe he's nailed, I don't know. But sometimes I think if I'm questioning that so much, is it worth the stress, right? When the Chelsea team sheet comes out, I know most of the time, and again, no one's completely nailed, right? Even Azpilicueta has missed the game in the league so far. I think most of the time, Rudiger and Azpilicueta are going to be on there. So that is probably where I'm going to go. If I do Trent out this week, it's probably going to be to Azpilicueta. And if I've got so many other defender injuries, then I'll probably do Ayling to Rudiger as well. And I'll stick with that. Part of me, especially if you're doing a 1 week punt this week and then you're wildcarding in game week 8 and you don't have massive bench concerns like I do, I would be tempted to go for Chilwell. There has to be a chance that he starts this week against Southampton. I just don't think, like, as well as Alonso has played for a lot of this season so far, I just don't see a situation in where Ben Chilwell does not get minutes, because Tuchel is going to want to have the option to use one or the other. And last season, maybe you could say that Alonso will play the easier games, but I just don't think it's that easy to predict. And I don't want to pretend either that Alonso is not brilliant. If he starts against Southampton at home and I don't own him, I am not going to watch that Chelsea game, because I know what he can do. He is so attacking. He is just basically a left winger when he plays in that wing back spot. Forget about the defensive duties. He's super attacking. But last night has just put too much doubt in my mind. And if these players are going to be long-term holds, then sometimes minutes are king. And minutes are always king, really. And I'm probably going to go for Azpilicueta and Rudiger for that reason. I just think they're going to start more games than the rest. And I think Christensen is a nice saving. Like, all the players are starting to go up in price. So it is a 0.7 million saving from Rudiger to Christensen. But again, I just think Rudiger will start more minutes. So that's why I'm going to pay the extra for him. And it's not like Christensen's massively, got a load of attacking threat anyway. So I don't feel like I'm missing out. If you're really brave, I think you go for a Chilwell punt this week. But it is just a punt. Like, they both played 45 minutes. We know Chilwell has had issues. Like, Tuchel hasn't really put him in the team too much. So it is a massive punt. You could just go for Alonso and just assume that he's still first choice and he's still going to start. Bearing in mind we've got an international break where Alonso's probably not going to play anything. He's going to be getting fully rested. So there is a chance that Alonso plays. And again, if you've got a bench, maybe you just go for him instead. But as a long-term move, I'm going Azpilicueta and Rudiger, which I know is super boring, but I think they're the most nailed on. And if Reece James was fit, maybe if I wildcard in game week 8 and Reece James is fit, I might go for him and Azpilicueta or him and Rudiger. But right now, I just think that left wing-back spot is just too open. And I think anyone that says Alonso is just going to keep starting week after week, I just don't think that's the case. I just don't see how Chilwell The Champions League winning Chilwell, who played that Champions League game final against Man City, just doesn't ever come back into the team. He has to. And the difference between now and earlier on in the season is he's had some minutes. He's had some minutes in the Cup. He's had some minutes in Europe now. And maybe that's the catalyst to getting back in the team. I'm not saying 100% I'd predict Chilwell to start this week, but I do think there's enough doubt in my mind that I won't be buying Alonso. But as I said, if he starts, I'm probably going to miss out on a lot of points. So just before we get onto the questions, I thought this was interesting, right? So someone I follow, FPL Sigurd, go and follow him on Twitter. Ash Jules Breach, did Bruno really say this, right? So there was a quote from an interview she did with Bruno. So he said, I was on penalties tonight. So this was after the Champions League game, but we didn't get one. The manager will decide before the game who takes it, right? And then she confirmed that that is exactly what he said. So I find it strange that they would just, every game before they go on, Solskjaer says, yeah, it's you tonight, Bruno. Yeah, it's you tonight, Cristiano. I feel like that just doesn't make sense. Maybe that's what they're saying publicly, and maybe that is what clubs do. I don't know. I feel like you have a penalty taker, and then you have a second penalty taker, and that's it. You get one, the proper penalty taker takes it. You get another one, and that player is off the pitch, and the second penalty taker takes it, etc., etc. So to me, that sounds like Bruno's on penalties, but we have to obviously include the fact that he did say before the game the manager will decide. So maybe he will say Cristiano Ronaldo in the next one. In some ways, right, this would probably make if Bruno was on penalties full time, that might even make him the best Man United option going forward, because his underlying stats are virtually the same as last year. In fact, they're slightly higher, but you could expect them maybe to come down a little bit to where he was last year. So his goal threat and his assist threat is around the same. Plus he's got penalties. And we saw how many points he scored last year. Now, obviously, it feels like a massive risk right now going Bruno Fernandes over Ronaldo when Ronaldo is so highly owned. But if Man United between now and the next good fixture run get a couple of penalties and he takes them both, that would then tell me that he's possibly on them just full time. And this whole before the game thing is just a load of rubbish. And then when Man United do have a good fixture run, you could even go massively differential, we could call it right now, and go for Fernandes over Ronaldo. But what is clear is Ronaldo has not necessarily got penalties now that Bruno has missed, which I said earlier in the week. I didn't expect that to happen because Bruno's been so good on them, right? So you don't just take him off because he misses one. So it does dent Ronaldo's appeal. A £12.7 million forward without penalties with a tough fixture run coming up. I think it just reinforces the fact that you can sell him soon. Doesn't have to be next week. But this is very interesting. Like I said, if we get a couple of penalties and we see who takes them with both players on the pitch, and if Bruno starts taking both of them, then I think going forward we could say he's probably on them full time, regardless of what he's saying, and maybe he becomes the better option. Okay, let's fly through some of these questions. So if Grealish isn't an option, so I'm guessing this just means that this team has got a bunch of midfielders, there's no spot for Grealish. Is Gabriel Jesus an option to get a Man City attacker in? I've got to be honest, I don't fancy Gabriel Jesus as an option in FPL at all, really. Like, I think he's 8.5, if I just quickly double check, which is fine if he's going to play full time. No, he's 8.6 actually, he's gone up in price. So if he's going to play regularly, I mean, he has started 5 out of 6 games so far. So he didn't start the first game against Spurs. He has since then. And he's been good as well, right? Either on the right wing spot or in the central spot. He has been decent. But I just think you can't guarantee that he's going to keep starting. And we're always going to say this with Man City players. And you've got a spot for Lukaku or Ronaldo. You've got a spot for Antonio. Jimenez is doing really well. And these are all players that are nailed on to play. And some of them have got penalties as well. Tony is nailed on with penalties for a lot less money. It's not that Gabriel Jesus is not a bad option. If you wanted to go for him for Man City's fixture run from Game Week 8, I don't think it's a bad call. I just think that there's so many other good options in the forward line. I'd either go for Grealish or just possibly go for no Man City attacker. And I know why people want to go for them. The fixtures are good. We're expecting them to score loads of goals. So I fully get the appeal for going for someone. But if Burnley at home and Gabriel Jesus, for whatever reason, doesn't start, that's just super frustrating. I think there is a chance of that for sure. Like, Torres could play up front, De Bruyne can play up front, Jesus can move to the right, Mahrez could play on the right as well. I just don't see this run for any of the Man City players continuing where they're starting like 5 or 6 in a row. I just don't think there's enough upside to go for Gabriel Jesus versus the other forwards that we've got. So do I think that Wolves will stick with their Game Week 6 team, starting Hwang and Podence and benching Trincao and Traore? Look, the honest answer is I don't know. Right, I'm not a massive Wolves expert. What I will say is I watched the game and I didn't think Hwang or Podence were that good. especially Podence. I think he looked really rusty. I think just a lot of his passes just didn't get completed. I haven't checked the stats, but I'm just going from what I watched. It just wasn't good at all. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of these two comes back in and maybe they go for like a kind of hybrid situation. So maybe they keep Hwang on and they bring Traore in. I don't know. I felt like that game really just missed Traore, and I think there is kind of, you know, the Newcastle defence is there to be exploited, and I think Traore is probably the best option they've got for that. It's a difficult situation, right? If you've got them and you've got no pressing other transfers, you could make a move for like Traore to a Rafinha or a Sarr or someone like that if you wanted to. But if you've got a good bench option, I would possibly keep hold of them. The problem is they're very likely to come on. Like Traore, if he's bench, will almost certainly come on in every single game. So you do run the risk of a cameo. But if you wanted to keep for one more game for Newcastle, I think that would be okay to do. But the honest answer is I just don't know. And this is the problem, right? They are just minutes risk going forward. Even if they start, there's a high chance that they could come off at like 60, 70, 80 minutes because they've just got so many options in those kind of wide forward roles, right? Either on the right or the left. Jimenez is the only nailed-on attacker there. He plays 90 minutes every single week through the middle. It's everyone else around him that changes. So long-term, I would probably say right now that the Wolves wide forwards probably just aren't options at all. If I had Traore, though, I'd be very tempted to keep this week because Newcastle are that bad. Okay, thoughts on whether to transfer Jota out. I probably won't have Jota on wildcard. If I wildcarded this week or next week, I probably wouldn't have him. Although he does provide excellent value. Like I still think if you want that kind of £7-ish million midfielder spot, he probably is still the best option because none of the others are really that nailed on. And Grealish is a little bit more expensive at 8 million as well. So I don't think it's bad to hold him. I think there's actually a chance that he starts against Man City, but I know that people will think that Firmino will. But there has to be a chance that it's Jota, right? Because he's played the majority of minutes so far. And then, of course, there is a chance that he's going to play against Watford as well. But you're going to have this every single week. Every single week, you're not going to know for sure if he starts. And obviously, Firmino has played quite well in the games that he has played. He is back now. He is fit and available. There's every chance he starts one of the Man City or Watford games. That's just going to be the case every single week. So I probably won't own him on a wild card. I just don't want this stress every single week about whether he's going to start. And you know that if he does, like, you can see this two different ways, right? Some people will say the fact that you know he'll come on during every single match is good, but there is a high chance of just a 1 point cameo though. Sometimes you want players to either start or just not come on at all. With Jota, you don't have that, so the risk of a cameo is big. The problem is we know what he can do when he's on the pitch, right? I'm not trying to play that down. He's brilliant. If he plays 70 to 80 minutes, he can do just as much damage as like a Mane or a Salah, but you just can't guarantee that. So with Man City at home, Man United away, I would just take this opportunity to maybe just jump off him and maybe come back when the fixtures are a lot better and just hope that he doesn't play that Watford game. If he does, there could be a big haul there. So I don't think anyone that keeps him is making a mistake. But what would I do? I'd probably get rid of him if I didn't have any other pressing issues or if I was on wildcard. So simple on this. Is it time to start bringing in Arsenal players? Obviously, they did really well against Spurs. They've been doing well for the last kind of 3 games as well, against Norwich, Burnley and Spurs. And they've got a good fixture run coming up. I don't think there's necessarily a massive rush to have them this week because it's Brighton away. Although, obviously, if you're on wildcard, you want to be pre-planning. So there's no harm in getting them in this week. But there's also, for the rest of us, no harm in waiting. I think Crystal Palace at home, Villa at home, Leicester away, Watford at home. That's the kind of nice enough fixture run over kind of game week 8 to 11. So I think they're good. I don't think we need to necessarily rush out to buy them. There's plenty of other good options. Personally, for me, the few that I'd be looking at, Ramsdale in goal. I think you have to look at him if you're on wildcard. No harm in keeping Sanchez, but Ramsdale is a genuine option. I think in defence, you've basically got 2 picks. You either go for Ben White, who's 4.4 million, and you go for him because he's cheap and nailed, or you spend the extra 0.5 million on Tierney because he's more attacking. I wouldn't go for any other defenders. Tomiyasu 4.5 possibly, but I think Ben White and Tierney is where I'd spend the money. Like if I'm looking at Tomiyasu 4.5, I'm thinking it's only 0.4 to get Tierney, and he's really the one that you want. So I'd definitely look at Arsenal defence. I think they'll keep enough clean sheets to warrant their place in our squads, especially over those good fixtures. In attack, so Smith Rowe has started 5 out of 6. So you could say he's fairly nailed. Obviously, they've got everyone's pretty, fitness-wise is good right now for Arsenal. The Smith Rowe's nice and cheap, 5.3 million, which is why I like him. And again, I'm not like an Arsenal expert, so let me know if I'm wrong, but I feel like Odegaard is pretty much guaranteed to play that number 10. I think Saka is pretty much guaranteed to be in the team every week. Therefore, you've got two other spots, either left or right, depending on where Saka plays. He's been playing right quite a lot. And you've got Aubameyang up front. Like, Smith Rowe's not going to play up front. And then is Pepe just going to be full-time bench? I just don't think he is. I think he's going to make the odd appearance. So for his price, Smith Rowe's a really good option. And Odegaard, 5.5 million, is decent as well. But I just don't think long-term their kind of goal threat is going to be as good as someone like Saka. I think Saka's more likely to get you a goal, and he can chip in with assists as well. And because I feel like he's the most nailed, he is the one that I would get for 6.2 million. I don't mind Aubameyang. For any of you that want to take a punt on him for 9.9 million, not really that bad of an option with the fixtures they got coming up. But again, he takes a very valuable forward spot where there's already a lot of very good and very valuable forwards where I just wouldn't bring him in. I feel like midfield is where you can take more of a punt on one of these players, and it costs you less money to do so. So for me, if I was trying to bring someone in, Ramsdale, Tierney and Saka would probably be top of my list. I don't mind Smith Rowe, but I do think you're going to get the odd bench in, and more than Saka gets benched, that's for sure. But there we go. If you enjoyed that and found it useful, please do give it a like and hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 240k now, then it's just the final push to 250,000. So please do keep subscribing and hitting that like button. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Football Scout if you haven't already. Link in the description below. You can get signed up for a monthly or a yearly subscription. I would highly recommend it. There's loads of good, useful FPL tools over there. And don't forget as well, check out Patreon. Link in the description below to that too. Tom H, thank you to you for signing up since the last video, and for everyone else that has signed up and supported me over there as well. For those of you that sign up to the mini league and the Slack access tier, there's going to be a new mini league for October, right? There's monthly prizes every single month for the winner, and if you're signed up before the deadline, then I'll get you the league code over for that as well. And for everyone else, I'm going to send it out soon, don't panic. So there's a few prizes on offer as well, and you get a drawing of a player of your choice by FPL Doodles, and a big shout out to FPL Merch who are helping me out with those prizes as well. So if you want to check that out, link in the description below to all that. There'll be a Q&A over there on Friday as well. I'll leave that video there. I'll be doing another wildcard video later on today, which is why this one's come out a bit earlier. Give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you soon.